Hi, I'm Jonathan Weinberg. Today I'm going to talk about the Lamy Studio Pen. I've sort of fallen in love with Lamy after a long period of time. I had a Lamy Safari, as I've said before, that I got a long time ago, and it didn't. Something was scratchy about the nib. But lately, all the Lamy pens I've gotten have had really good nibs, and I wonder whether that has to do with luck or perhaps the company has just gotten much better at quality control. There's one funny thing about Lamy, which is really a good thing, which is that they test all their pens. So when you buy a Lamy pen, it often has a little bit of blue ink in it, but you'll see a lot of reviews on Amazon, whatever, and people say, "Oh my goodness, I got a used pen because they see that the pen has been used." But that's actually one of the good things about Lamy is that they test their pens. Uh, anyway, this is the Lamy Studio. I think the other thing to be said about Lamy is that they don't just make the same pen that there are a lot of copycats and repetitive looking pens, but Lamy really does try to design something that is modern and different and beautiful. Once they do, they stick with the pen, but there's something very distinctive about all of their various pens, and I really like that. And that's certainly true of the Lamy Studio because it has this really interesting clip that is sort of based on an airplane propeller, and it's kind of tight. And instead of it going front, I'll show you under the um, the camera. But this clip is cool because it sort of goes in a different direction, and it's kind of tight, but it works really well, and it's really beautiful, and it's what makes this pen look different from the flagship Lamy 2000 because there's a kind of closeness to it. This was designed by Hans, I imagine you pronounce it Wettstein. He was a Swiss designer who was born a year after I was, but unfortunately died in 2008. I had a hard time trying to find out when this pen was actually designed. I know that Hans Wettstein designed the scribble in 1998. That was the first pen that he did for Lamy. And then I know he died, unfortunately, in 2008. So it had to have been created, the studio pen had to be created somewhere in between that time. And I think it probably was in the early 2000s that he comes up with it. So if anybody knows, they could put that in the comments. I've spent a lot of time Googling, trying to figure it out when the first one came out. They were certainly making all kinds of editions and different versions of the Lamy Studio in 2012, as early as 2012. So anyway, and that was after he died. But it's been a very successful pen. It's positioned in terms of how much it costs. I think it lists for $100, but I was able to get this on Amazon for under $50. And I've seen for all different prices, and also depends on the color. It seems to depend on the nib, what you pay for this pen. It normally comes with a metal nib, the same nib that is on the Lamy Safari, but you can get it. There's a version of it called the Palladium, and that comes with Lamy's 14 karat nib, the same nib that fits on the Safari, which you can buy separately, and that seems to go for around $160. So, and I've never tried that, so I don't know if it's worth it. At some point, I'm going to do a review of the gold nib and put it in a Safari and see if it really is worth it to do that. It comes in a really nice box. This nice box. And it has your a little description about the pen and aim in it like this. So this is really actually very nice, particularly, you know, there's sometimes controversy on Amazon whether you're going to get the box and all that, and so this was nice that it came like this. It we will see, it writes really well. I would say that the Lamy Studio writes a little better, and it's the gold. I mean, and I like it better. I have to admit it. They're very close, and I think in looking and shape, the surprisingly in your hand, I thought at first that the Lamy 2000 was heavier, but actually it is a little bit lighter than the Studio. The Studio with a converter in it, I think comes to around 34 grams, and the Lamy 2000 is somewhere around 28 grams. So they're close. You know, it's actually, this is substantially heavier, but they both feel very substantial in the hand. I like the weight of them in comparison to the Safari. I enjoy Safaris, but they are very light, and because they're all plastic, both of these pens are mostly metal, right? So that gives them a kind of weight. They're both very beautifully balanced, so that's nice. And they have this kind of modernist design. The Lamy Studio is a little bit thinner than the Lamy 2000. And here's the big controversy about the Lamy Studio. It has this very shiny metal section, and I actually do find that it's a bit slippery, too slippery, I think, to be absolutely comfortable. I enjoy writing with this pen, but I would prefer it if the section, as beautiful as it looks, was not made of this shiny metal. A good choice. I believe that there are models of the pen that do come in different materials so that the section isn't so slippery and sort of cold to the touch. I don't like that, but there are a lot of pens that have metal sections, so I'm sure there are people who actually enjoy that, I guess. So that's another something to keep in mind when you get this pen. It really is beautifully designed. It has this nice little finial here, or the back, I guess this finial, I guess, would be on the top. And then it's shiny. The clip goes to the top here. You can see that. Yeah, I'll show that under the camera. And as I say, it's quite close. The way it snaps together, the way the Lamy Studio does that too. 2000, excuse me. You see, the Lamy 2000 has a kind of brushed metal section, and that I find much more comfortable. Also, the Lamy 2000 has this beautiful space age material that is really nice in the hand. Another difference is the Lamy 2000 has a little window so you can see when it's running out of ink. The Lamy 2000 is a piston filler, while the Lamy Studio is either a cartridge or you can get a Lamy converter. It doesn't come with a converter. You have to buy that. The Lamy converter, though, is not super expensive and very easily available. And then, of course, it takes Lamy cartridges, which are also easily available. So that's, those are the differences in terms of the two pens that are often compared. Another thing which I actually don't like about this pen is the way the logo Lamy appears on the cap. I think that's actually a little bit tacky. I would prefer not to have that there, though it's not, it's not terrible. The thing that as I say, I think that doesn't work so well with this is the shiny metal section, and a lot of people have said the same thing about it, that that's a problem with the pen. It is very, Hans Wettstein was a wonderful designer. So it's very sad that he died when he was 50. I would have loved to see the other pens that he would have come up with. People love his pencil that he did, a mechanical pencil, the scribble. I'm not a big user of mechanical pencils, but I hear it's really quite wonderful. And so that's a great loss of that Swiss designer, if this is an indication of the great quality of his work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a writing sample, such as they're worth. I've been using the pen for a few weeks, and it really writes absolutely flawlessly. There are no flow problems, no issues with it. It writes smoothly. It's really nice that way. I'm also going to do, at the end, I'm going to do, in honor of the spring, a little picture watercolor and drawing of crocuses, croci. So the pen I have is a medium. I like particularly writing with mediums. Okay, as always, please subscribe. I'm almost up to 300 subscribers, so you could be the number 300, which would be very lucky. And that's the way that you show that you enjoy these videos and support the channel. So please do subscribe. Thanks. So here's the writing sample. It writes really nicely, as I said. It's smooth. There's a little bit of a feedback, very similar to Lamy Safari. It's a medium. I think I forgot to mention that both pens, by the way, Lamy Safari and the Studio, post really well. And they're very nicely balanced. There's no flex at all to this pen. It has a little bit of a feedback. It's just the right amount of wetness, not too wet, not too dry. It's a very reliable writer, no skipping at all. And it's a nice weight. It's just the slipperiness of the section is my problem. So this is a quote for spring from Emily Dickinson. A little madness in the spring is wholesome even for the king. Very nice. And here I'm starting out by drawing in pencil the crocus. I think you say croci when it's plural. And sort of sketching it in. And then I put the watercolor in just to give a little sense of the color, wonderful purple of the first flowers that come. You know that spring is coming and it's going to get warm. Those little flowers pop up. Even if it snows, they somehow manage to stay alive. One of the things you have to do I think with watercolors, you have to let the layer sort of dry, and then you can overlap the colors. So I waited till it dried, and then I bring in the Lamy Studio and draw over it, sort of outline different flowers. And this way you don't have to worry about the ink not being waterproof because you're using the ink on top of the watercolor. If you watercolored over the ink, then that would be a problem. There you go. Don't forget to subscribe, please.